Welcome guys to another test, software testing or QA testing bootcamp. It's good to have everyone here. I suppose everyone can hear me. Let me just verify that. You guys can hear me, right? Say something if you can.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Yes. Great, great, great. Like I mentioned last time, I sent you guys my how to call it, my kind of like the documents or the stuff I use for the training. So look through it. It's very summarized. Most of the time, it's very easy to follow. The main points stand out. So look through them. I sent it from the first training down to this very training. If you even looked at this training and you read it, you probably see some of the stuff I'm going to talk about. What we're going to talk about today. So I like to continue from what the best practices are for managing test execution. So basically, um, I see five here. But technically there are six proving steps. Let me see. Oh, rather five. There are five proving steps to run test execution smoothly and efficiently. So one of them, as you can see on the slide, is prioritizing your test case. So your test cases. So what does that mean? So remember, if you have to test a certain software or a certain part of a software, you already have like test cases or tests that you have written for that particular area. So you don't want to just start from number one or just pick one and start. So it's always a good idea to prioritize. And why is that important? When you prioritize, you're going to take the high risk feature and put it at the top because you'll be like, okay, let me start testing stuff that we know that if they fail, if they are not working, it will it will be like really disastrous or catastrophic for the company. So you prioritize high risk first and you put the lower risk down. I will give you a typical example. So if you had to test the Pigax website, right? So let me pull out our case study again. So we have, I don't know if you guys noticed also, I redesigned Pigax so it looks different now. So if you go on it, it looks all fresher now and we got some cool stuff. We got documentations in here now for our users. So these are all new stuff that I designed last couple of weeks. But however, if you wanted to test the login feature, you understand, you want to test the login page, and there are several things you can test here. So, for example, let's put wrong emails, wrong password. So you could test to see if this pop-up shows or if you get validation. So a more prioritized, um, if you have to prioritize testing this page, probably your first test will be more of the happy flow, which is can a user actually log in? So you probably want to test this first, like does the login work? So you say I can log in. So fine, this is high risk. Now imagine you prioritize in a different order, and you're like testing to see first if the errors are showing. That's like low priority because whether the errors are showing or not, if the errors are not showing, but a user can still log in, that is better than the errors are not showing. That is better than the errors are showing, but the user cannot log in. So the login feature is more of a high priority. So the user should be able to log in. So you want to prioritize that. So prioritizing your test is more like a kind of a simple example, but I hope you get what I'm trying to say. So when you get your test, you want to prioritize it. Take the hierarchy features first, critical business function first, and then you start working it down. Another reason why prioritizing is important is it saves time and it also makes helps you identify major issues. So there are different type of issues. There are majors, there are minors, and the major ones are issues that can really stop the business or really make the company lose money or make registered users stop using or creates a kind of irritation. So if you test the core functionality uh, of the use case first, then yeah, it's always the best practice. Now the second one is maintaining clear communication. Now you want to use the stand-ups. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term stand up? I think I've mentioned a couple of times, but who knows what is stand? Who does not know what a stand up is? Please raise up your hand if you do not know what a stand up is. Okay, so since you know what a stand up is, I'm gonna go ahead and ask. Um, Titi, can you tell us what a stand up is, or what you understand a stand up to be? You're muted, Titi, if you're here. Okay, so I don't think Titi is here. All right, let's try someone else. Let me see. Who would I pick? Let's see. Chinoso, can you tell us what a stand up is?
Like meetings that you do with your team.
Yeah. What kind of meeting is that?
Meetings to discuss the progress.
Okay. And how long does a stand up typically last? Do you know?
I think it should be short, brief, and maybe daily to discuss the progress with the development.
Yeah. So all your answers are correct. It typically lasts 15 minutes. I see. Titi sent a text message that she's not able to answer. Probably she's in a place where she can talk, but she also answered typically 50 minutes. So your answers are correct. So basically, it's just the first thing you do in the morning with your team, and you guys talk about what you guys did, what you're going to do, and if there are any issues. Uh, and it typically lasts for 15 minutes. I know I and my team. Uh, I'm sure if Obi's here, okay, Obi's here, Obi will be like, oh, ours lasts more than 15 minutes. Yeah, but yeah, typically it should last for 15 minutes. But coming back to the topic, maintain clear communication. So you as a tester, you want to use the stand-ups, your team chats, because mostly you have a team chat, either using WhatsApp, Slack, or some people use Teams. Sorry, WhatsApp. You want to communicate with your team when you are facing any kind of issue. You want to tell them what you're experiencing if there's a blocking issue and stuff like that. So typically in a stand up, you want to speak about what is going on if something is not working or there's an impediment or something stopping you from testing. You want to communicate blockers. If there is any change or any delays, you want to communicate that immediately. You cannot be a tester and be like, yeah, but the developers know that the test environment is not working now. So yeah, why would they be expecting tests from me? Nope, don't do that. If you do that, probably you're gonna get fired quicker. However, if the test environment is not working or if something is stopping you from working, you want to communicate that with your team lead. You want to communicate that with your product owner. During the stand up, you want to mention it. You want to say, listen, I couldn't test yesterday or I cannot test right now because there's an impediment. The test environment is not working. When I log in, it's not working. Please, I need to fix it. And typically what happens is the scrum master starts running around to make sure you are able to work because that's his job. So communicate very, very well. Use all the tools. Stand up, chat, let the right people know, let your developers know. If you also have like an issue or like experience a bug, communicate it. Put it on the Jira board, put it on the Azure board, like I showed you guys last time, and communicate it verbally during stand up. Like yo, yesterday I tested some stuff and yeah, I've already registered the bugs. They're on the Jira board, on the Azure board. Please take a look at it. Blah blah blah, stuff like that. Yeah, clear communication, very very important. It's one of the best practice. The next one is track progress and key matrix. So you want to use, for example, uh, your dashboard. So remember, let me open our Azure Azure board again. So it will be very visual for you. So I think last time I also showed you guys this, but I wanted to start sticking to your mind. I'm also going to open a Jira board. So that depend. These are the two most popular software development tools that are used in the tech industry. Is that your company is using Jira or they're using Azure? So as you can see here, this is my board for working for the work I do with some of my team. So you see here we have Obi works with me, and we have a new person joining us. And if we take a look at the board here, you see that we have three phases: to do, in progress, and done. And we, like you see, all the stuff here have already been completed. So Obi moves his stuff. The same thing with you guys the same thing with Azure. If we go to the pickaxe stuff, right? So you as a tester, let's go to the board. So you as a tester probably gonna log your test. Let's go to Sprint. Let's go click on Sprint. So this is the test. Now you want to log what's going on. So let's say this is we're gonna say maybe we have fix bug. So this one typically is going to be for the developer. So probably put this under my name. And then here you have retest. So this is probably going to be for you as a tester. So you want to make sure that you move your task. You want to log them based on what you're doing. So remember, the first one is new, the second one is active, the second one is closed. Anytime if you start retesting, maybe if the developer is done with his work and it's like, yo, um, Sumbo, you can go ahead and test. You want to come to the board and move this stuff to active. Active means now I'm busy retesting what the developer has done. And if you find any issue, you're going to come back here and log the issue. New issue, or just say something like the the button is no longer visible, and you register that as a bug. So it's no, 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 sorry. This is not a bug. This is a task. So if you find a different issue than this one, of course you have to create a new bug. You do that here, new bug. But if this particular test is still not working, what you have to do is you have to communicate that back to the developer and let the developer. So probably the developer will be putting his stuff somewhere here. You want to communicate to the developer and say, oh, this stuff is not working. So you want to move this. And it's also the same thing with Jira. So I think on this Jira board, I think we also registered some bugs. Let me see. Do we have any bug here? See, the boards are very similar. You see that? We have backlog, we have active sprint. If you go to Azure, we have backlog, we have sprint. It's very similar. So I'm just showing you to you guys so that your eyes will get used to it, because most companies you're gonna work with, they are using one of these. These are the two famous um, software development board that company use. And why do you do this? Of course, you do this because your product owner want to be able to track your progress and say, okay, what are you doing, and how far are you? Um, but in on this one as well, it's quite similar. So as you can see here, we have a bug, a registered bug. Let me see. Why am I not seeing that then? So we have a registered bug. The bug has been assigned to me. As you can see, the bug was reported by, let me see, I can get quite some information here. Okay, so this is description of the bug, and then I will add a task to it. So let me say I'm going to analyze this bug, and I'll put it under my name. So Dante is gonna pick that up. So if you go to the sprint board now, to the active sprint, I think now you would see it. So you see it here. So there'll also be another, you as a tester will add your own task here and say something like retest. So when I work on it, I as the test developer analyze it, of course I have another text bug that says fix bug or something. So I move it here. So you see the middle, remember the middle means in progress. So you have to do, in progress, and done. Very similar to Azure. Azure has new, active, and close. So now if I'm done, I will signal my tester. So probably this case OB, I'll signal the tester. Then you as a tester have to move your stuff to the middle. So very important. It's a good practice to work this way. So that is part of tracking progress and key metrics. So you want to use these tools because this is how your fellow testers will also know what is going on. Another thing is you also want to make sure you update your test logs. You want to, put what passes, what fails, and all of that. You want to track them. Like, we have that test reports that we did and all of that. So you want to make use of these available tools, right? And of course, if the bug is totally gone, you want to change the status. So now it's in progress. You want to change it to done when it's done. And also with this one, if everything goes well, you want to move it from new, so it goes to active. And when it's totally done, you want to move it to close. But we're gonna talk more about that. We're gonna see more about on this in a few minutes. So these are the best practices. So we'll go to the next one, document issues and blockers. So every time you are testing, you want to note everything that delays or blocks you. Very important. I've said it before. If something is delaying you, sometimes a developer will develop when he's done, he doesn't deploy to the test environment. If it's a delay, you want to communicate that. You understand? You want to talk to the developers. If it's taking too long, you want to talk to your product owner and say, oh, okay, I'm actually waiting for deployment, my computer is not working, or the network has stopped working, or there's no internet in the company. It's blocking me. You want to communicate that, and you want to escalate these issues to the right people. Um, then it could also be a blocker in a software because sometimes, what if, let's say for example, what if you had two features that have been developed, but this feature, say, let me see. So just hypothetically speaking, yeah. So you have feature 46 and 40, sorry, feature 45 and 46, but the developer has finished developing 46, but 45 is not developed, and you need 45 to be able to test 46. Then that means 45 is a blocker for you. Am I making sense? Sometimes user stories or features kind of like are intertwined, and one needs to be done before you can test the other one. And in that, if that situation occurs, that means that one of them is blocking you. That means because the developer has not finished this one, it's difficult for you to test this. You understand? And these are situations that could occur, and you want to make sure you communicate this clearly to your product owner or even to the team. So document issues. So documenting issues also means if you find these bugs, you want to put them clearly on the board. Also communicate blockers properly so that you don't, because a lot of times if you don't communicate that blocker, the team thinks you're doing something, or your product owner thinks you're doing something, and then later maybe after like 4 days you're not like, oh, I couldn't do anything because the test environment was down, and they're not gonna your team is not gonna be happy with that because you never said anything, you never communicated that. So that is very important. Very, very good practice. Now the next one is you want to hold reviews and retrospectives. So, does anyone know what a retrospective is? Let me see. Let me pull. If you know what a retrospective is, please raise your hand. Okay. All right. So let's try Sumbo. Sumbo, what is a retrospective? Okay.
Um, I think retrospect is also like a review of what has been done, looking back to what
Exactly.
was done before.
So, um, so in this context, thank you, Sumbo. That's quite correct. So in an agile team, uh, um, I think Titi, you're raising your hand because you know what a retrospective is, right? And not that you have a question. Okay. Okay. Great. All right. So she responded. All right, so like Sumba said, a retrospective is more like looking back. Lasso to koja. If you are watched Yoruba movies, they used to start like their Yoruba series. They start with like, oh, Lasso to koja. That means retrospective. All right, so you want to hold. There are two types of retrospective, of course, in an agile team or in this context. So the first retrospective is retrospective as a team. So both you, the developers, the testers, developers, analysts, all of you have a retrospective of the sprint. But this part we are talking about is actually or is mostly done in a group of only testers. So you want to like at the end of every sprint, it's usually a good idea. This is not something you see in a lot of companies anyway. In most companies I've worked on, yeah, testers do this like maybe once a month or once in 2 months. So they come together. They're like, okay, how was the last couple of sprints? What I think we keep seeing an issue where there's this issue keeps reoccurring. That button doesn't work. It didn't work last sprint. It didn't work this sprint. They fix it. It keeps coming back. So you have, they talk about their experiences. Like, okay, how was it? Is there something we can improve? What about our test plans? Our test scripts? Are they clear enough? Should we change the style of writing? What can we do to be more efficient? So, reviews and retrospective for testers is usually a very good uh, practice to perform in the team, or if you're in the team. If you also join the team, you could also, if they don't have it, you also want to suggest it. It's always nice. So you talk about what went well, what didn't go well, what can be improved, and of course, you want to use the feedbacks to, you know, to improve on future works. So let's see. Are there any questions so far? Okay, no questions. So I want to re-summarize some key takeaways of what we discussed both this today and last week. So the key takeaways I want to just summarize is first of all, there are five key steps to test execution. So first of all, we talked about in our past test, we talked about I think we discussed that here. So we talked about reviewing test cases, setting up environment, executing. Sorry, I think I'm scrolling too fast. So the five key steps for test execution. Whenever you want to execute your test, you want to review your test case. When it's time for you to test, you want to review your test case, you want to set up your environment, make sure the environment you're testing is working. You want to execute the actual test that has been written down. You want to log your defects that you find, and you want to report your results. So these are just basic 5 steps of when it's time for you to execute. You want to do this, right? So, and we talked about best practices as well, prioritizing your work, communicating, tracking your the status of a bug using tools like Jira, Azure DevOps. You want to document what you find or impediments, and also review and reporting. So we're going to move to the next part, and that is defect lifecycle. So defect is just basically bugs. So bugs also have their own life cycle, right? Where does it start and where does it end? So a defect life cycle is just a sequence of stages um, that a defect actually pass through. So you can call it stages, you can call it states. You understand? It's just like let me try to be practical here. A defect. Let's see, because I want to use something that you guys can remember. So you have say you have if you have a cut, so let's use a cut. I think everybody here has had a cut once in a while. You're in the kitchen and you cut your finger. You understand? So that's a defect. We're gonna use the word defect. So that's a defect. That wound is going to go through different life cycles. So if that happens when you cut yourself, first stage is you acknowledge. Oh my God, I cut my finger up. I'm sloppy. Oh my God. So that's what you as a tester finds out. You acknowledge there is a cut there and it's bleeding. So acknowledgement happens. Second thing that happens is you have to do something about it. So Two things you can do about it. You can start sucking it, which is the default thing for a younger person. You start suck. Even older people do that. You just suck it. To, I don't know why we do that. Maybe to suck out the blood, or maybe we're vampires. I don't know. But probably it's your attempt to stop the bleeding. Now let's go for a more traditional step. A more traditional step will be you want to disinfect it, right? So that's step two. So that technically that's what the developer is going to do. The developer is going to the tester identifies it. Developer is going to try to administer um, what you call it medicine to stop the bleeding, either disinfect it or put a bandage to it. So that's another stage. So you remember identify, put a bandage or try to solve it. Then the next stage that's going to happen is going to start healing when it heals, and then the last stage is it's gone. So that's the life cycle of an injury, of a knife injury, if you think about it, more explicitly. So it's a defect like that. So if you put that picture in mind, bring it closer, to what we're talking about. So a defect in software is also like a knife cut. A tester identifies a bug, and that bug will go through different life cycles till it gets to close, just like the wound goes through different life cycles before you look at it and it's totally gone. There's even no scar, or maybe there's a scar, but you don't feel any pain. So that's what we're going to talk about, and that's what we mean by a defect life cycle, right? So having a proper defect life cycle ensures that nothing gets overlooked. You have to follow those stages because if you do that, it's very difficult for the bug to disappear. Or when I mean disappear, for it not to be in the view uh, of the developers or of someone that's going to fix it, or it might not be in view anymore. Because imagine you're working in a big application, everybody's reporting bugs, but nobody's noting it down. Before you know, we forget about it, and nobody, developers forget that that's even a bug. So we don't want that to happen. Also, follow having a clear defect life cycles also helps to ensure that critical issues are prioritized. So because there are some bugs that are not really a lot like really uh, heavy or high priority, and there's some bugs that are really high priority. So when you have a proper bug life defect life cycle, you can prioritize important ones to be taken up first. And also it helps the team stay aligned with the status of a defect. So having a clear defect lifecycle is very, very important. Now, what are the main stages of a defect lifecycle? So that's practically what you see here on this part of the slide. So we have different statuses. So we have the new, assigned, open, fixed. Then you have retest. You have close. You have reopen, deferred, rejected. So go to the next slide. Let's see if we can make more sense of this. So first of all, new. New is just like that injury. Oh my God, I cut myself. So that's new. It just got discovered. So a defect is new when it is logged in the tracking system and is given a unique ID assigned to it. So you see, let's go back to our Jira board so that I can continue to make this visual. So you see, this is the first stage. You register it, and you see, when you register it, the first stage is it's new. So you see that I showed you guys this before. See that new. If you also go to the Jira board, I think we have something similar. So if we come up here, we see the first part is to do. So it's quite similar. They have to do, and you can also add more of this stuff here, but this is the default one, yeah? So we have only two states here. We add three states. We have to do, in progress, and done. So yeah, the first one is new, but the Scrum Master can add more phases here because in our from what we're going to discuss, we'll see that there are multiple states, not just these three you see here, right? But yeah, so that's new. When something comes in, when you register it, it automatically gets the status to do or new. So Jira uses new, and Azure DevOps uses Jira uses to do, Azure DevOps uses new. They both mean the same thing. So that's what the new is. So you see here. Then you have the assigned. The assigned is when the project manager or the product owner assigns a defect to a developer. Uh, so it's more like, yeah, uh, during your stand up or the developer themselves say, okay, I'm going to pick up that bug. because the it could be that you register a bug, but the product owner is like, okay, no, we're not going to work on that bug now. We're going to work on it later, or maybe next sprint. So, but it gets when it gets assigned, it means that a developer will pick that up. And how does it get assigned? So let's go back to the board. So we see here that this is a bug. It says when medication log is empty, message says no vaccine found. Now, how do we know that this is not assigned? So if we go back to the board, let's save changes. So we see who's picking this up. Nobody, because it says unassigned. You see that? Let me zoom in a bit. It says unassigned, and if we look at our board again, we see that, I mean, if we look at our slide, the first thing that happens when it's registered, it gets the new status, and then it gets assigned when someone picks it up. I mean, sorry, it gets assigned when somebody is asked to pick it up. So it's either the product owner says to pick it up or a developer will pick it up themselves. And how does that happen on Azure DevOps? So you see on the assigned here, I'll just click on it and I'll assign myself to it. So now it is assigned. And who is it assigned to? It is assigned to Darlington. Or sometimes it's the product owner himself that's going to come here and assign it to you. So this is the second stage of the life cycle. It has been assigned now. Now, when it's assigned, then that means it also takes the status of open. Um, Let me see. Am I correct? No, no, sorry, no, not open. Sorry. So it's if it's assigned, it's been put under a name, and then when the developer starts to work on it, let's say we put a bug here, we put a text here, and we say analyze. Oh, sorry, this is not what I mean. Analyze, and he says active. So you see, these tools they have different what do you call it? They have different states naming. So we have new, active, while in Jira is a little bit different. So the moment you put it here to active, he's analyzing it. Then it's the same as it being open. And open means that the developer acknowledges the defect and has begun to analyze it. So that's when it's open. So it comes in, it gets assigned. A developer, the moment the developer starts working on it, then it's open, or how would you say? Then it's active, right? Then we have deferred. What is deferred? Deferred is when it comes in new, but it's not that urgent. Then the product owner can say, okay, we're not going to work on this. He's going to take it out of the board and put it maybe on the next sprint. So deferred means that it's not urgent, it's out of scope, and the team can actually push it to the future to kind of do it like next time, not now. That's when you say a bug or a defect is deferred, right? Then on the next stage here is fixed. So fixed also happens after analysis, maybe developer finished working, and then they put the fixed as closed. We can also add another, let me see. So yeah, so we have just one, two, three states here. So sometimes it could be four states depending on what you guys what your team does. So there's another state that people teams usually have. They call it resolved. I don't even know if I can add that myself. Can I? Let me see. Can I? Okay, I can, but it's gonna take a minute to look for it. So yeah, so if the bug is fixed, so that's also what you can see as fixed here, and that means that. So we have at this point now the state is active. So we cannot make the bug resolved yet. So the bug is not resolved because the tester has not retested. So, but we have a sub item here that already says that the developer has fixed it. So that is when it's actually uh, fixed. So before, because after fix comes the retest. Yeah. So the retest is basically the the tester that found this bug also creates a task, Of course, you put it under your name. So I'm going to put it under Sumba's name, for example. So the developer is done fixing the bug. I communicate it with the tester. I say, tester, I'm done. Then the tester has to retest. So you see, that's why we have a task here that says retest. So that's the next cycle. Now, after the retest, two things happen. If the tester test and the issue is still persisting, this retest stays in active mode, and he or she communicates to the developer and say, "Omo, guy, the bug still needs to be fixed." So because it's not gone, so of course the developer has to move their task back or create a new item for that. But if the tester now tests the work and like, okay, all the stuff is done, everything is working as usual, so the tester now moves their task to closed and then go to the main issue, the main bug, and you have to come up here and change the state to uh, closed. So resolve resolve was the state I was looking for before. I kind of missed that. So uh, when the developer fixed the issue, he can come and put it to resolved, and then after the tester test it and make sure there is no issue, the tester has to come here and click on close. So now the life cycle of this bug is officially done. So I see someone has a question. If I go ahead.
All right, sir. My question is, in some
N-
cases, will the
Always they
developers
work on
and
the
the
same
testers
Jira
work
board.
on the same Jira
Always,
board with the way you're explaining it?
because it's a team. It's a teamwork. So, but and I'm talking about if you're working in an agile Scrum team, you guys work on the same Jira board. The testers don't have a separate board. No, you guys are working on the same board.
So even when they're writing their test cases and
So remember that
and
the test cases you write, you
they,
don't write them on
when
the
they're
Jira board.
testing,
Test cases are is a document for you testers. You guys maintain them. Either you're writing that in an Excel document and you're maintaining it together as if like if you have a test two or three testers in the team, you guys do that by yourself. However, this board is for managing tasks and user stories. So remember, if we had this user story renamed vaccine or farm setup, this feature, this thing that has to be done, is for the whole team. The whole team has to make sure that this thing is done. Now, what happens typically? So the first stage of this remember we did a refinement. We discussed, okay, what does this mean? What are the acceptance criteria? You get your features from it. Oh, which example did we use? That was this one, yeah. So in this refinement, remember the testers, the developers, the analysts, the product owner were all in this meeting. And also from this acceptance criteria, the testers now went to develop their test. Now, who's the first person that starts working? The first person that starts working is the developer. While the developer is test working, the testers are busy writing their test that they drew. I mean, they are writing the test that they drew out from this requirement. Now, what you see typically happen is the developer will add his own task. He'll say something like, he can add multiple tasks, but let me just keep it simple. So I'll just say add, I'll say develop the feature, just like that. And then you see typically what a tester would now do under this same stuff will be come here and write your own task, which is test. You can just say test. Then this would be for the developer, and the tester would just come here and put his own. So I'll put in this case Ifeanyi. So me now as a developer, I probably put this active. That means I'm busy with it. When I'm done with it, I put it close. So that means now I'm done. Now, of course, we have the life cycle here. So when I was working on it, it will be on active. When I'm done with it, it will be on resolved. Now, you as of course, the developer will inform the tester and say, "Hey, guys, I'm done with this stuff, so it's ready for test." Now you as a developer have to come here now and move your stuff to active, and then you go start your test. You run all the tests, or you go through all your test cases, make sure everything is working. And if you find an issue or you find something that's not working, you actually um, what do you call it? You register that. So you could either um, there are two ways in its practicality you can do that. You can say, okay, because we are still busy here, I'm just gonna call the developer directly. He's in my team. I'll just call him and tell him, listen, I found this issue, and you register it. Or you typically could just go down here and just register a bug and say, okay, you found this issue and that issue. Um, However, to be very to bring it like real, you typically would not do that if you're still busy with this. So you typically would not create a new bug. But what you would do is if you find that this developer did not meet the requirements, what you would do is you would inform the developer and say, okay, you forgot this and this and this feature. Now the developer will come back and fix it and then do the same thing, close it, and tell you to come and test. Now, while you are testing, if you find an issue somewhere else, say you now find while you were testing this stuff, now you now found that one of that button that has nothing to do with this stuff is not working, then you must register that as a bug. It is not that you now tell the developer, oh yeah, while I was testing, this other button is not working. No, that button has nothing to do with this user story. You understand? But while you were testing this one to make sure that the developer meets all the requirements, you found that something else was not working. So you just come in here and register that as a bug. Now, as long as the developer meets all these requirements, you as a tester will now say, okay, test is complete, and you change the stuff to the user story to closed. So that means you guys have fully completed this story. You guys have added this functionality to the system and it is done. So you see, you actually work as a team on using this board. So both you, the developer, and even sometimes the analyst, you're busy moving stuffs, adding stuffs, updating stuff. It's a team work. So the developers don't have, I mean, the testers don't have their separate board. However, on this Agile Azure DevOps board, depending on the kind of team you have, the testers could also use this feature here called test plans to write their tests and to monitor their tests. You understand? But this is not a place where developers actually go to typically. This is just for testers, depending on how your stuff is set up, your business is set up. But this is outside the scope of this discussion. But yeah, in most cases, if the testers have their own zone, it will probably be this link where they will come and set this whole stuff up and make sure that certain things are working. But you have to set it up properly anyway. But for now we're gonna stick with writing your test plans and your test reports uh, on a Word document or an Excel document. And then later, when we start talking about automated testing, then this part comes more into play because when you do automated testing and you put it in the pipeline, which is here, but that's I don't want to load you guys up with too much stuff. But what happens is in an automated test, anything that goes wrong will be registered here. You can see it on your test report and runs. But that is for another discussion. Does that answer your question? All right. Great questions. So I
Yes, sir.
want you guys to also look at the excuse me. All right. So I want you guys to look at this life cycle and try to make it make sense. If you can look at it and be like, okay, it makes sense, then it's easy for you to remember. Just like I used the whole injury stuff. It just makes sense. It's just just internalize it and be like, okay, yeah, of course, it makes sense that it comes in new, it gets assigned, it gets picked up on, it gets deferred if it's not important, it gets fixed. The tester will retest it. If he still finds bug, he'll reopen it or he'll close it if everything is done. It just let it make sense to you, okay? And that way, testing is now going to start coming to you naturally because it's just basically like, just testing. You just test stuff that needs to be done. Okay? All right. So let's see. Did I miss something? No. So let's go to the next slide. Let's see what the next slide has for us. So yeah, someone has a question again. All right, Justin, go ahead.
In real life, in a real life situation, is it possible for a developer, for example, to
Yep. Yep.
um, create a bug, right?
Yep.
As in independently without letting testers know? Yeah, and then sees what the result would be. For example, are there situations where a developer can do that? And if that is done, for example, is that like best practice? Because I've had something like that before from some IT friends. They say they created bug for their app, and then when you try to access it, it's that particular aspect. It naturally creates that bug that lets them know that someone tries to access that app at um, that area of the app. So in real life situation, like in an official setting, is
I
it
think that's a very,
okay
very
for
good
a
question.
developer to
That's a
like set up a
great
bug
question, actually.
for testers
So,
to test?
first of all, you have to understand something. When you're working in an agile or a scrum team, so you see, that's the word that comes in a lot when in the tech space. You are in an agile team, or they're like, you're working a scrum team. You have to see yourself as one unit. It's like being in an army. You are one unit. If something fails, if a tester doesn't do his job well, or a developer doesn't do the job well, it's not that the tester didn't do the job well. It's the team did not do their job well. Do you understand? It's all about team, 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 team in an agile world. What does that mean? That means that you should be able to lift each other up and assist each other. Now, bringing it back to Justin's question, it is not it's not actually it is not. I don't want to say it's not the responsibility, but more, we don't leave it to only the testers to look for bugs or to find bugs or to register bugs. If a developer finds a bug, he either registers it or brings it to the notice of a tester because you are a team. You don't say, "Oh, well, that let the testers figure it out." No, it's like a religion. Agile Scrum is like a religion. You're a team. You're like a unit. So if you do find something as a developer, yes, you have to register it, or you call a tester and be like, "I found this thing. Is it me, or is this really a bug?" Just in case it's not clear for you to you. And yeah, you register it. So myself in the company I work for, I register bugs all the time. You understand? I register it, and when I register it like the same way a tester would, which is I put it on the board, I put the steps to reproduce, and then I leave it there. Why do I leave it there? I leave it there because that bug still needs to be prioritized by the product owner. So I don't just create a bug and just start working on it in most cases because there might be other things of higher priority. But like we said, when you register a bug or when you use the defect lifecycle, which is the first part of the defect lifecycle, is that you should actually register it. It makes that bug visible. So that means the product owner can see it, the other testers can see it, and you can even discuss it during your meetings and be like, "Yo, I found a bug yesterday. I was clicking on this and that, and so I already registered it." So typically, what some of the testers would do will they'll go and look at it to make sure it's really a bug, and then when it gets assigned to a developer or assigned to me, then it goes through the other phases. So again, yes, it's part of the it is best practice for developers to also somewhat think of themselves as testers. Not that they might be doing that specifically, but if they come across stuff, they want to bring it to the notice, they want to register it. They don't need to say, oh, they don't even need to take permission from the tester to register it. No, you just register it. All right, Chinosa has a question. Oh, sorry, Justin, does that answer your question? Okay, great. Chinosa. Uh, endurance. Yeah.
Okay, from his question, I also have another question because I thought that was what he was even asking. Like, is it possible for security reasons for developers to put in a bug
So
to protect
again,
a
I don't really
site
get it. How do
or
you
to
mean
protect
put in a
what they are
bug?
developing? Like to use a bug to so that when like someone wants to access the site, someone that is not authorized to access the site wants to access it, they get a notification that they
Hmm.
should not or they cannot
I get what you mean,
access
but
it.
that's not called a
Like
bug.
the bug is like
You
I don't know if
understand?
it's going to
So
be
that's
called a bug in
you
this
can give that
scenario, but
different names. So one of the most popular names you can give that is validation
okay.
and authorization. So if you have a good validation and authorization rule, first of all, your software will not allow unauthorized people to access certain part of the software. Now you can even go a step further that if someone tries to do that, it should send an email to the developers and be like, someone is trying to go where they're not supposed to. So you can see that happen a lot with your Gmail, with your Instagram, with your whatever. So sometimes if you try to log into your Gmail using a different phone, even if you log in successfully, it will send you a message to your Gmail and say, okay, there was a phone we don't recognize, it's logging in. Is that really you? Or if that person tries and it keeps failing, maybe they will do it like 3 times, and if they see that person still trying, they will send you an email and be like, someone has been trying to log into your account from this telephone or from this computer. Is that you? Do you understand? So those are not bugs. Those are more like authorization and validation controls, and with an extra layer of alerts. So they send you alerts. Then that's even for the user. The security guys or the developers that you don't see also get alerts like that. So for example, in this my system now, like I told you guys that this I have a test server, the one I gave you guys. So if you go to test.pigax.com, I told you guys that this stuff is not accessible to anyone. It's only accessible to people I give permission to. You understand? Remember when you guys tried to access it the first time, you couldn't get to it. However, I could also add an extra layer that if someone just keeps trying to access this stuff, I can write a program that will say, okay, if someone from a specific IP address or from the same IP address try to come to this site like 10 times, it should send me a text message and say, I think a hacker is busy. Check this person. You understand? So those are just extra level of security that developers, software engineers can set just to monitor the system, but it's not referred to as a bug. Does that answer your question? All right, great. So this is a typical example of a walkthrough
Yeah.
of what it can look like using the defect lifecycle. So we have a scenario, a test scenario called, a bug. Remember, if you register a bug, you have to write, kind of explain what the problem is. So you see the scenario of this bug now says the save button doesn't work on the task creation page. So this is an example of the different life cycles it's going to go through. So first is new. So the tester logs the bug. Remember I showed you guys that you register the bug, you log it, and then you put the stuff. The save button doesn't work. You put in your steps to reproduce. The assigned state is it gets assigned to a developer. John Doe gets assigned. Open, the developer starts investigating, starts looking to it. Fix, the developer adds the missing event handler and updates the status. So it gets fixed, he now moves the stuff to resolved, uh, like you see here. So let me also make it more visual again because I think visual memories are important. So it gets fixed, so it's still on active though. It gets fixed and he also like comes in here. Sorry, I click on this and he moves this to resolved. Yeah. And then the tester, in this case, we'll put this back here, and then it's time for the tester to test. So the tester does a retest. Now the tester verifies the fix. After the tester verifies the fix, we move to close. If it works, the bug is closed. So the tester verifies it's working and he moves the bug to closed. Oh, am I clicking on the right stuff? Yeah, yeah, it was already closed. Yeah, so he moves it to closed. And then you have reopen. So if the issue persists, the tester reopens the issue. Do you understand? So you could actually have put this closed, and maybe the tester is tested again, or something happens, and it's like, oh, this bug is still happening. You cannot just basically come here and make it new again. It's okay. This stuff was not really fixed, and most of the stuff back here. So that can also be something that could happen. So this is just typically a walkthrough with an example of how it would look like. All right. So let's go to the next slide. Let me see. Yeah. Okay, let's take a 5 minutes break. Okay, and then we will come back and then we'll try to round it up. I think we just have a few more slides. So a 5 minutes break. I will see you guys at 10:50. Okay, I'm gonna set a timer. Please be back here at 10:50. All right, let me see. Pomo focus. All right, 5:50. Short break. Stop. All right, see you guys in 5 minutes. All right, great. We'll continue. Okay. Now, just a quick recap. So, the best practices for defect management, you want to write clear and detailed bug reports. So, you want to include the summary, the steps to reproduce, details, screenshots, videos, right? So, if you remember again, let me always try to give you guys a visual example. So let's see, where's our stuff? So I remember last time we were talking about this. You saw in this bug report, I included screenshots. I created the steps to reproduce. You probably see this word a lot, STR. When you see STR, it means steps to reproduce, which means what were the actions you took that generated this bug. So you want to just detail it out. You want to put what your expectation was, and what the actual bug, what actually happened, which was the bug. So yeah, very important. This is the best practice. You want to do that. Secondly, you want to hold regular triage meetings. So yeah, just basically have meetings where you decide what to fix and how, and prioritize open bugs. And these meetings, basically, you have to do that with between yourselves as testers, or also with the product owner, because the product owner is mostly the person that is kind of responsible to prioritize, okay, are we going to do this bug first, or should we not even touch this bug and move it to the next sprint and stuff like that. So it's very important to hold meetings, and this is also in situations where you guys are more than one tester in a team. Communicating effectively is also a best practice. You want to you want to maintain an open communication between yourselves as testers. You want to have an open communication with the developers, with the product owner, with the analysts. You have to be like really really open, talking, discussing. Do I understand this? What is the expectation? Is this really a bug? You go to the analyst like, okay, this is happening this way. Is it really a bug? If you don't really understand it, so communication is very important. Now, understanding features before calling something a defect is also important. Don't just be like, oh, I think it should behave like this. You want to understand, you want to look at your feature, you want to look at the feature. So remember again, let me be visual about this. So remember, we had this. You want to read this. You want to read your features and be like, okay, is this actually a bug, or is this something that's supposed to happen? Because a lot of times, what you could think is a bug was already explained in the feature report, and the feature is saying, oh, it should do that. So it's kind of like it's a waste of company resources if you say, oh, this is a bug, when it was explicitly written in the in your user story that that's exactly what it should do. So you want to make sure that you look at your feature result report very well and be like, okay, did the report say this is what it should do, or the report says nothing about it, or doesn't say anything, doesn't want you to do that. That before you can now start registering it as a bug, right? So also, another important tip I would like to add to this is you want to try to build trust between yourselves and the developers. You want to be respectful in your collaborative efforts. Don't be confrontational. Don't be like, you must fix it though. No, no, no. This is how can you tell me it's not a bug? No, that's not. I remember I told you a Scrum team is like, excuse me. A Scrum team is like religion. A good Scrum team. Let me put it like that because I've been in Scrum teams where everybody's kind of a little bit crazy. But the proper healthy team is like religion. You guys are working together. You guys have a common objective. You guys lift each other up. You're respectful. You're playful. You're just fun. So, yeah. And the idea is not to be confrontational. You want to work together to produce high quality software. So don't go antagonizing developers or you know stuff like that. You want to maintain a good relationship with your developers. Now, that's just a tip. The fourth one is use a defect tracking tool. So we already saw one of the defect tracking tools we use. I showed you guys Jira. I showed you guys DevOps, which is one of the two of the most popular ones in the market right now. So you want to put your defects there. You want to track them. You remember we talked about why that is important. You don't want them to get lost. You don't want the team to forget about it. You want it to be prioritized. So use a defect tracking tool. Very important. Retesting and regression testing. That is important as well. It's best practice. Always retest the defect after it is fixed. Don't just believe that the developer has developed it and you just say, okay, he has developed it, it's good. No. Go and retest that bug. Make sure it's working. It is also possible. The reason why you see regression there is it's possible that while you're retesting, you now see that something else has broken. That's why you see regression there. So, and if you find something else has broken, remember that that is not part of the test you're testing. You have to log that as a separate bug. Do you understand? You have to log it as a separate bug because you found something else while you were testing something else. So performing regression tests will also make sure that the fix didn't break anything else, right? Let's see. Let me see. Any other thing? No. Okay. So, so let me just put some key takeaways. Let me revise some key takeaways. So remember, we talked about the defect lifecycle. It helps to manage and track bugs systematically. You want to also understand each stage to ensure smooth collaboration. So these are different stages. So you want to also maintain best practices, like we discussed. Yeah, reporting, triaging, communicating, retesting, and all of that. And you want to be respectful to your developers. You want to be proactive. Part of being proactive is also part of what Justin asked. As a developer too, you want to be proactive. If you see stuff that's not working, you want to bring it to the attention of the team. Let me see which other part. So we're gonna move to the next part. Why are test reports important? So before we talk about why reports are important, we've worked with test reports before. You guys have generated test reports before, but we just want to zoom in just to give some theoretical background to it. Why are they important? So first of all, I want to talk about what are test reports. So test reports are actually a bridge between the testers and the stakeholders. With a test report, you can clearly communicate what you have actually tested and what the status is of the software in terms of defects and uh, functionalities that are actually working. So it serves as a communication tool. It's also a decision making tool that helps determine readiness for release. So imagine if you have a software and there are maybe 70% defects or bugs, then it's clear that that tool or that software should not go to production. So it helps in decision making. It's also an accountability report for tracking progress and the quality of the software. So they also a test report also answers questions like what was tested, what passed or failed, and also the test coverage, which are all important stuffs. So what are the different types of test reports? So we have like at least three unique test reports that are quite popular. So one of them is a summary report. A summary report is more like a high level overview of test progress. So the case run, you see what's passed and what failed. You also see major issues and stuff like that. So it's more like yeah, a high level overview. It doesn't go into detail. Then you have a defect report. A defect report focuses on the bugs. So it's a report that only contains issues, and that report you'll find the severity of the what is you see what the severity of is of the bug, the status, how many was found, how many was fixed, how many was reopened. And this kind of report, defect report, it helps developers to lead and to prioritize. However, from my experience, since I've been working, I have not really worked with a defect report. I don't even see it that much. But it's good to know that it's out there. Some teams use it to communicate, and yeah, it's just a report. Then you have execution reports. This is a detailed record of test case executions. So you have the test case, expected versus actual, the pass and fail status, and these are mainly for QA teams and for developers. So these are like the three types of reports you see. The one you guys wrote the first time or a couple of weeks ago, that one was called a summary report. So it's come up more like a high level. We saw the cases that was wrong. We saw what passed and what failed. We saw the major issues, and yeah, this is mostly, and in my experience, is the most popular type of report. It's very easy to read. People can understand it from different parts of the department and all of that. Now we go to the next ones. So you have what are the key metrics you want to include in your test report? So you want to include your test case metric. So your test case metric actually includes the total cases that was uh, executed, how many of them failed, how many of them passed, and what is the percentage of test coverage. Then you have your defect matrix. Your defect matrix is how many defects was found, or at least it contains how many defects was found, how many were fixed, how many is closed, how many are open, and what the severity is. Then you also have something called defect density in some cases, but that's just for something else. Then you have execution matrix. The execution matrix is um, how many it contains like what is your execution rate? How many tests are you able to test per day? What is the average time you spend on each test case? And what are the bottlenecks or delays that happens? So this is mostly useful for management. Management want to see, okay, yeah, how long does it even take you to, how many tests do you run a day? You understand? How long does each of them take you? And on average, how long does it take? And this can also help to plan for future work. So these are kind of like key metrics that you can find in test reports and stuff like that. Now, what are some of the best practices for reporting? So, best practice, you want to keep it clear and concise. Avoid long paragraphs. Don't start writing paragraphs. So, if you remember our last test reports that we used, if I remember, let me see if I can even find them. So, I can bring it back to memory. Let me see. I downloaded at least. Let me see. I have a sample report here. Yeah, let me see. So you can see this is a summary, which is one of the one we explained. So you see the total number of test cases was 100. The total number of testers was 5. How long did the test take? It took 5 days to test 100 test cases. See that? How many was planned? So this is just a very nice overview. You have number of test cases. Then look at this. Pass percentage of defects 98. Defect density 2.5 per day. Critical defects percentages too. Then if you go to the second tab, you see detailed status. So you have like this was the part you guys used. We have the test scenario. We see the passed or the failed, and severity and all of that. Then you see on this part you have the bug report. which goes more into details, the step to reproduce, what is the severity created by, and who is it assigned to. So you see this one, you remember I just got this off the internet. I just downloaded it. It's it's pretty good. In a lot of companies, it might be the same or a little bit more, and a lot of other companies too. They use softwares to do this. So when I mean softwares, all the things you see here, Jira, DevOps is actually able to do. So you can those stuffs can be done using this tool called test plans, test report, progress report. You can see that here, but it has to be set up for you to be able to use it. So I don't know if I can use it here because I'm not paying for this Jira account because some of these features you might have to pay for it. But let me see. So you have your yeah, I don't know. I have to check if it's allowed for free versions. But yeah, you have companies where you can use this ones that are, I mean, use it tools like Azure DevOps to monitor those stuff. And a lot of times I've seen companies just use Excel to for this kind of stuff. All right. So yeah, so you want to be clear. The next one is you want to know your audience. You want to make sure your reports are not excessively in depth or too difficult if you have to do that yourself. So you want to tailor it also to the kind of people that are going to read it. So if it's is it for executives? If it's for executives, then it's going to be a high level summary. So take for example, if it's for executive, this is what an executive wants to know. Not saying the executive have no business reading your scenarios. To verify if executive does not, they don't even know what this is. All an executive wants to know is look at the number of test cases that happened, look at how many failed, look at this, look at that. This is the density, this is our pass density. Imagine this stuff was like 40. That's the pass percentage of defect. Uh, if it was well, pass percentage of defect. So if it was like 40, or is it? Let me see. Okay, so if it was like 40, then it's a problem. That means majority of the defects did not pass. They failed. They did not get solved. So of course, as an executive, I have to start making noise and be like, okay, everybody stop what you're doing. We have to solve this, right? So this is what an executive is interested in. You don't want to go and be sending an executive this stuff. The executive doesn't care about all of this. They don't even know what this is, right? Because they're really high level. Then for developers, of course, you want to give them this stuff if necessary, or even in my experience as a developer, I never use this. I just I just use what's on the Jira board. So remember, you put all your stuff on the Jira board, and then we walk through those life cycles there and stuff like that. So yeah, you want to know your audience and give them the right kind of report. So visual reports is also interesting, nicer with charts, graph, dashboard. It helps to make the information more comprehensible and all of that. So you can even go ahead here with Excel being so powerful. I'm sure you can just highlight this. I think Excel has what do you call it? I think we have like charts or something. I think that it could be there used to be charts here. I can't even remember how to. Yeah, you could use stuff like this. So you see, you can start creating some nice charts, but depends on what your company is doing. Okay, if you work depends on what the company you're working for and what they do. So you could create charts with stuff like this. You highlight all of this stuff and you create. Let me see, insert. I think there are different types of charts you could create. Let's see. Let's go pi. So you see, this is also very easy to understand. You just be like, okay, this just 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 by looking at this, you look at this part, be like, okay, which part is this much? You know, look at this. You say state of number of test cases executed. Okay, you're like, okay, it's quite a lot done and stuff. So you could also use charts to communicate information. They're usually very interesting. Let me get rid of this. But also in most cases, if you're using tools like Azure, most of those charts get automatically generated for you. So very use visual stuff if it's in within your tool sets, right? Also provide context. That's also best practice when you are explaining problems, or I'm sorry, if you're explaining in stuff in your test report, you want to provide context, explain what the numbers mean, highlight the trends, the anomalies, areas of concern. You want to do that in your report. And the last one is tell a story. So you want to help the team to understand how your report impacts the release timeline. So, for example, if your test report is showing that there's a high number of issues or defects of bugs, you want to explain that, listen, if we don't do something about this, if we keep getting 50% bugs on every sprint, we are not going to be able to meet our timeline because this and this, because we're just two testers in the team, we're just this, we're just that. It could also be a way of telling your team, the management, to get more testers because it's a lot of work. So you want to tell a story, you want to think like a storyteller, you want to, yeah, you just want to explain what the impact is of your work, if things are going well or if things are not going well. If things are going well, you could also say, listen, if we keep going with at this rate, yeah, it means, yeah, we're gonna meet our deadlines. It's looking good. Thank you, Ted. Thank you, developers, for doing your job. Blah blah. If it's not going very well, it's also a signal. You want to be able to explain how what you're doing can really impact the whole system or the whole team, right? So these are best practices. They are also, you can find this also in the notes I shared with you guys last week. So this is a final slide, final tip. So it says being a great tester isn't just about finding bugs, it's about clearly communicating what you found, what it means, and what needs to happen next. So communication is very important as a tester. You would notice if you're in a team, a lot of times the developers will be the one coming to you to ask you, okay, how should this thing work? Should this, what is the requirement saying? Am I going to do this? Is this supposed to give me an error? And if they don't come to you, probably they'll be going to the analyst. But yeah, you are mostly the person that should know how features are supposed to work because you will be talking a lot with the analysts. So you read your feature, you read your user stories properly, you translate those user stories into test plans or test cases, and you make sure that the features are working the way they're supposed to. Remember, you as a tester, if you are not doing your job very well, it will some most often show in the quality of the software because people will be finding issues in the software that probably you did not see or you failed to notice. However, like I said, in an agile team, everybody works as a team, but the testers are busy looking for or finding issues and they're logging it. So everybody kind of works together in a typical team like that. Okay? So that brings us to the end of today's training. I will be giving you guys assignments. I know I promised you guys assignments. So I'm just busy writing out the features, and this time it's also going to be real world stuff. You guys will be testing different parts uh, of my software, Pickaxe. As you can see, I and my team we're doing a lot of work. We're working hard to bring this software to a new phase. We're adding quite a number of new features to it. We're fixing a lot of issues. Sorry, this is the test environment. So let's go to production. So you can see we're doing some really cool stuff with it, filling up this part. So you see we have still have a couple of stuff to do here. There's nothing happening there. So we're busy. We're busy. And of course, the most important part, which is the back end side of things. So we're also making sure getting new features. I think for the past 2 weeks, uh, Obi was able to find bugs here and there, like our calculations were wrong, and we're able to fix that. So you guys will be testing this software alongside. Also, another exciting project I'm working on, which I would love you guys to get your hands dirty on, is the Enquete website. So you see the Enquete website. So currently, yeah, I've been saying this a long time already. Or I am working on a totally new version. I am rebranding this whole software. I'm going from the ground up again. I'm developing the software, and I think it's going to be a big project. I do hope to get the minimum viable product out before within 6 months. I'm very excited about this project. This week I was able to showcase it to my team, what the front end is going to look like, so I can showcase that to you guys as well. So I'm going to stop recording for a minute because I don't want